Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant, and this is Elite Dangerous. Recently, I've had a number of requests asking me to show how I've outfitted my Asp Explorer, and I'm going to go ahead and do that today, but I thought I would take it one step further and do a full exploration guide for you all. Now, unfortunately, I'm still about 3,000 light years away from the central core systems, and still a number of thousand of light years away from the nearest station, so I'm not going to be able to show you any of this on an outfitting screen, but fortunately there are some other YouTube videos out there that will show you how to do that. But what I can do is have a look at my modules UI screen and show you what modules I've got fitted to my Asp. Now, of course, you may be thinking that you don't have an Asp, you might have a Sidewinder or a Cobra or a Hauler or some other ship, but the same principles will apply. My first journey out into the depth of space I actually did in a Sidewinder, and I actually travelled all the way out to the Pleiades Nebula in an Eagle, as you can see in my older videos. So I'm going to jump to the galaxy map here quickly and just show you where I currently am in relation to Earth. This is the NGC 7822 Nebula. It's very interesting, and I'll come back to that a little bit in a minute. And you can see it's getting quite out towards the edge of the galaxy here. But we'll enter in Sol, and you can see that's just shy of 3,000 light years. So not any great distance by any means, but it is starting to get out there a fair way. Certainly a little bit too far just to come back to a outfitting screen when I haven't got one nearby. So let's get straight to the modules screen of my Asp here. One thing you always want to keep in mind, and probably the most important thing you will need for any exploration ship, is the jump range. That's the number of light years your ship can travel in a single jump, and this is determined by the mass of your ship. The greater the mass, the less the distance the ship's able to travel, and it is also determined by your FSD drive. The greater the drive, the further you can go. So keep that in mind when you're outfitting your ship, because it means every module can have an impact upon your jump range. So have a look at your thrusters, as less mass on your thrusters will mean a greater jump distance. I've gone for D-rated thrusters here. Do keep in mind that a higher rated module doesn't necessarily mean that module will be a lesser mass, so always keep an eye on how a module affects your light years jump, and you can see that on the outfitting screen. Now, shield generator actually has its own story. A lot of explorers fly without a shield, and I've done that a lot myself. Once you're around 600 to 800 light years away from Earth or the edge of the core systems, you don't encounter any NPCs, so you're not going to get interdicted, and it's very unlikely you're going to get attacked by a player out here. Removing the shield generator from your ship will increase the ship's jump range significantly, so there is the payoff. You make your ship slightly more at risk to being damaged by enemies, for the benefit of being able to jump a lot further. Once you're out this far, pretty much the only thing that's going to damage you is if you're daft enough to crash into an asteroid, which personally I've nearly done a few times, but if you're a good flyer you'll probably be able to avoid that. So yeah, shields are a choice thing. Of course, if you don't have a shield fitted, you can also fit a different module in that slot, which you may find is far more useful to you. Auto-filled maintenance units. Now, I've never had one of these until I got my Asp, but I did get a fair bit of damage before when I come out in my Cobra, and the downside is that currently the maintenance units don't repair thrusters, so if you lose your thrusters you're stuck out here and that's the end of that. But there is plans for that to be changed in an upcoming patch. Frontier have said that they will be able to fix everything except for your hull and canopy. If you're in a smaller ship, you're going to be limited for module space, so A maintenance module is something you can get away without having, but they're a nice thing to have. Now here is the biggie, the frame shift drive. This is what you're going to need to spend as much money on as you possibly can. The better the drive, obviously the better jump range you're going to have. Do make sure that you go for the correct class size for your ship. For example, a Cobra needs a class 4 jump drive. Do not put in a class 2 or class 3 because it will not be able to give you any good jump distance at all. The thing to look out for is the rating of the jump drive. The higher the rating, the further it's going to go. In this case, I've fitted a class 5 A-rated drive, and that cost 4.5 million credits, but it was very much worthwhile. Do not underestimate life support by any circumstances. Of course, when you're out this far from any station, having 5 minutes of air or 20 minutes of air is not really going to make any difference to you. But what it will do is make your ship lighter. Again, don't assume that the A-rated life support is going to be the lightest. It may be the C or the D. In my case, it was the D, and that gave me an extra couple of light years on my jump range. The power distributor for an exploration ship is not as important as it is for a combat ship, but it will allow your engines to charge faster, meaning that you can keep boosting a lot more regularly than you would be able to otherwise, and that may help you out in the early stages of exploration when you're still within the area of systems that contain NPCs, or if you do happen to get interdicted by a player, it will help you run away. Of course, you're not going to get anywhere at all without a fuel scoop. Get the best fuel scoop you can afford. In this case, I went for the largest size, which was a class 6. I did consider a class 5, but the class 6 does scoop faster. And of course, the higher the rating of the fuel scoop, the faster it's going to scoop as well. This particular scoop will scoop at 550 units a second. So you want to get as high as you can. In a Cobra, I was able to scoop around 130 units a second, and that was fast enough for that particular ship. What you don't want to be doing is sitting next to a sun for minutes upon minutes at a time, refueling, because that's just wasted travel time. Now again, this time was the first time I come out with shield cell bank. It's not really something you do need, but the Asper's got a lot of spare module slots on it, and I decided to fill it with a shield cell bank. Without it, I would have had a slightly better jump distance, but it wasn't enough to go without the cell bank. I decided to take this. So if you can have one, take one. If not, don't worry too much. And here, again, sensors are just the same as life support. Don't assume that you don't need to upgrade them. Whilst they will increase your scan range to 6 kilometers or something like that, that's going to give you no benefit out here when you're exploring. But what it will do is, again, make the mass of your ship lighter, allowing you to have a greater jump distance. So check out the sensors and go for the one that's the lightest. That doesn't necessarily mean it'll be the A-rated one. In this case it was a D-rated one, but make sure to check it. Now this is the thing I would recommend everyone take. Do not explore without a heatsink launcher. You might be wondering why. Well, the answer to that is sometimes I get distracted when I come out of hyper jump and find myself crashing into a sun. I've done that more than once, and of course you overheat like crazy. So the heatsink launcher is the thing that's going to save you from being destroyed and finding yourself right back at the last station you docked at. Fit as many of them as you can, or as many of them as you're willing to fit. I could have gone with 3 here and gone without the chaff launcher. Again, that was just me being on the overcautious side. A chaff launcher isn't really something you're going to need when you're exploring, but you might want a 3rd heatsink if you've got an ASP. If you've got a smaller ship, fit as many heatsinks as you can. The power plant, go for the best one you can, or go for the one that's the lightest. Now, generally speaking, an exploration ship is not going to have any weapons to power, so you don't really need an A-rated drive. So again, go for the power plant that's the lightest. That makes your ship have the least amount of mass, which will allow you to have the highest jump range. You don't normally need a cargo rack. The ASP has got enough slots to allow me to fit one, and I fitted one on the off chance that I come across something spectacularly rare or unusual when exploring, but None of that really seems to be in the game at the moment, so on any other ship, feel free to go without a cargo rack. What you are going to need though is a detailed surface scanner. These pick up extra additional details on the planetary bodies or the star's composition, which enable you to sell the data for more, and they also report back to you information on the asteroid fields or ring systems, which will tell you their composition, such as whether they're metallic or pristine condition and so on. And of course there's no point coming out exploring without a discovery scanner. I've got an advanced discovery scanner here which costs around 1.5 million credits, and it is the best one as it enables you to reveal every single planetary object in a single system with one press of the button. If you can't afford this, the intermediate discovery scanner will do the job. It has a 1000 light second range, and the basic discovery scanner is also okay. I've used it myself on my early exploration ships, and that has a scan range of 500 light seconds. So there it is, that's how I've outfitted my ship. Let's get back to the galaxy map, and what I'm going to do is jump away to another star here. I'm going to go close to my maximum jump range, which is around about 30 light years, and that will empty my fuel tank out a little bit so I can show you the refueling or the fuel scooping. There we go, it's 20 light years. It's probably going to be the last blue star there at the end, or 25 light years. That'll do. Right, that's selected, and so I can now make my way to that star. You can see that jump has actually used a small chunk of my fuel allocation on the bottom left hand corner should I say, and you can see the fuel scoop in action here. It actually gets to around 550 units per second if I get close enough to the star, but the tank filled up quite quickly as you can see there, so definitely make sure you can get the best fuel scoop you can afford, because it will save you a ton of time out here. Now I haven't done any scanning in this system yet. I'm going to allow you to see both scanners in action, so I'm going to pull my ship around and position it so that the sun is actually facing directly at me, and it will allow you to see these scanners in action. And the first thing I'll do is, once I've positioned my ship, is bring up the system map and let you see what it looks like before any exploration is done. So there we go. Let's slow down so I don't crash into the star, and here's the system map when it finally decides to load up. Right, there we go. So we've got just this one sun on the map, and it says that it's unexplored. It does give me some information about the stars, but that's just because the system map always gives you information about the stars by default. So right now I'm not doing anything. The only thing I did was use my target key to target the planetary body in front of me, and that automatically puts my detailed surface scanner to work. You can also do this without a detailed surface scanner, and it will indeed give you some information, which will just be the object's name. In this case it gave me the object's name as well as its combination, which was a blue-white star. There you can see there, O-type blue-white star. That information you wouldn't get without Discovery Scanner. Here's the advanced Discovery Scanner I've just done, which blasted away there, and it didn't reveal any information at all. So this is where the advanced Discovery Scanner actually comes into huge benefit. As it didn't reveal anything, that actually means that there isn't anything else inside of this system. If you have an intermediate Discovery Scanner or a basic Discovery Scanner, all that would tell you is that there's nothing within the scanner's range, so you would probably have to travel away from the star a bit and keep repeating the scans until you decide that it's not worth bothering doing that any further. So I'm going to jump to another star here and give it another scan so we can reveal more information with the advanced Discovery Scanner. So this system is now completely explored. I've done a detailed surface scan on it and revealed all the planets and stars that are in here. In this case it was just a single star on its own. Now I won't need to do much fuel scooping here, as it was a small jump and therefore didn't use up much fuel in my fuels tank. One module I could have mentioned previously is getting a larger fuel tank. It's not essential, and I've never personally upgraded it, but it can make a difference during the smaller ships, although it will decrease your jump range. Now look, you can see a whole bunch of stars there, even though I haven't actually done any scans on the system yet, and that's because stars are always revealed in a system when you first get there. And you can see that discovered 14 new objects. That will include the stars themselves, as well as any planets that I couldn't actually see before. Now here's the closest planet to the main star of the system, and I want to go out and do a detailed surface scan of that. Now you've got to keep in mind that a detailed surface scan does need to be a certain distance from an object in order to scan it. That distance will vary depending upon the size of the planetary or the star object you're trying to scan. So suns you can scan from, in some cases, many thousands of light seconds away, whereas some small moons you have to be almost on top of them before the detailed surface scanner will work. Now I want to show you a trick here that helps you discover objects within a system. So what I've done is fly directly upwards along the galactic plane away from the central star of this system. And what that will enable me to do is see the orbit lines of all the bodies going around this particular star. And the reason for that is because I want to head to a particular planet, in this case the one nearest the central star. And you may assume it's that one actually at the top of the list, but it could equally be that one right down there. And the reason for that is those distances only indicate my relative position to the body. So that means whilst planet A is closest to the star, it might not necessarily be closest to me, because its distance will be relative according to its orbit system. And you can see it's actually the third one there in the list. It's actually further away from me than the two above it, even though it's actually closest to the star. So when you've looked at the system map and you want to go to a particular planet, count its distance away from the star on the system map, and then go back to your game and fly directly up or down away from the central star and turn back towards the star. And as you move towards it, you'll be able to see the orbit lines here, and that will help you see where you want to go. I want to go directly toward that one there. It saves a lot of unnecessary travelling back and forward attempting to find planets that could be a good distance away from you. You can also use this technique in conjunction with the basic discovery scanner and the intermediate discovery scanner, and it will help you locate planets with them. I have made a tutorial previously on those scanners, and I'll link to it below for those of you that still are using that scanner. So let's get up close here and use the detailed surface scanner on this planet, and we can then determine its composition. So as I said before, in some cases you can scan an object from a great distance. In other cases you need to be up close, and that's determined by the size of the body you're trying to scan. So the scanning is now beginning here. That was at 100 light seconds, and it takes a few seconds to complete. Again, in some cases you might need to get very close before the scanning will even begin. And there, the scanning is complete, and it's a high metal content planet. We can now go to the system map, and it will reveal more information to us about the nature of that particular planet. You can see there's a huge amount of information there, should we be so inclined to want that. It also makes the scanning data more valuable at the Universal Cartographics when you come to sell it. So feel free to go scan and get your detailed scans as much as you can. Some planets are worth more than others. High metal content planets are worth a fair bit. I believe Earth-like planets are among the top tier of valued planets, and icy planets are right down near the bottom. So this is probably worth scanning. It's worth a reasonable amount of money. Now, another thing I've been asked a few times is how to locate areas that are worth exploring. Now, that is kind of a double-barreled question, because it does infer systems that are worth exploring for financial gain, and to be honest, I'm not really the person to answer that, as I don't do exploration for financial gain at all. I'm out here because I love exploring and I love discovering things, so I do it for the sake of it and to find beautiful places. And I can tell you how I do that, and that's on the galactic map, and I look out for objects that just stand out. In this case, NGC 7822 stands out. 1, because it's a nebula. I always look at nebulas first. And 2, because of the number of blue stars there. Just look at them. And of course there's some more nebula over here. So we'll head over there and have a look. We've got the Soul Nebula and the Heart Nebula. Now, one thing you must keep in mind before you spend any amount of time heading toward a nebula, and that's to go to that nebula on the galaxy map and then position the camera inside the nebula to take a look how many stars are actually inside there, because it's no good travelling all this way out to a nebula if you can't actually get inside it. You can only actually get inside it if there's stars in there. In this case there's plenty of stars, so you'd be able to move around inside this nebula a fair bit and have a look at this and the galaxy from other positions. Also, there's another thing, standout thing, that I'll show you, and I'm going to have to replay the last few seconds of footage to show you that. Right, keep an eye on the galactic core in the background. As I zoom in, you can see the galactic core is now completely occluded. You cannot see it at all, and that's something to have a look out for when you want to choose any nebula to explore, because it does make the area a lot more interesting in regards to the interplay between the graphics of the core and the nebula itself. And yep, the Heart Nebula is also quite interesting, although as you can see there are a number of stars a fair distance away from the nebula, so the nebula will be distant background here rather than something that completely surrounds you. And again, with that star there, so you need to pay close attention to that sort of thing. Make sure the area you're heading towards contains the sort of thing you want to look at. A good example of a nebula that may be disappointing to you when you get there is the Witchhead Nebula. Now, don't get me wrong, visually it is very appealing and looks very, very nice indeed, but as you can see, there's not actually any stars that are right inside it. This one looks to be the closest, but as I rotate around you can see it's not actually inside the nebula. And again, the same is true for this one. It's actually right on the edge of the nebula. The closest you're going to get in is something like this. So although the background graphics will look very nice, the nebula does look stunning, you're not actually going to be able to get right inside it. So again, like I say, be aware of that. And look at that, the galactic dust layer. Get into some stars around this, you're going to find some absolutely stunning sights, especially if you can find a nebula that's on this layer, and one of them is Barnard's Loop. If you go there, although it's down there, it looks, there is another galactic layer there. If you go there, you'll see plenty of dust in conjunction with the nebulas, and that looks lovely. Let's go have a look at the Orion Nebula, because that's also somewhere you're going to want to go, and that's not what we want. We want this one. And the reason I say that is because the nebula itself is lovely, but also look at these amount of stars. This makes for an absolutely stunning background, not to mention Easy Orionis is also there, which is one of the largest stars in the game. So there we have it, a quick guide to exploration in Elite Dangerous. If there's anything else you'd like to know about, simply let me know and I'll see if I can put a video together offering a little bit of help on it. For now, as always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys and girls next time. This has been Obsidian Ant, signing off.